So something in these kinds of projects where there's a lot of information to take in, I really like to adhere to themes. And something that I noticed throughout all of my readings was the inability for teachers to be able to do the job they need to do. Whether that was because of lack of funding, resources, inability to relate to the children, or not having the proper curriculum or access to the technology they needed. In the things that I read that were not the news articles, a lot of these teachers were presented as zany or out there or a little strange. And I thought it was kind of neat to see the parallels between how authors will take those in so many different directions. And there's this common narrative that the zany teacher is the only one that's able to reach the students, the one that fights against the school board, the one that doesn't do things in the traditional ways. They're often, in my experience, the ones that are painted as the only ones that are truly teaching, truly making a difference. And speak from the beginning, although the main character, Melinda, doesn't necessarily always agree with Mr. Freeman's teaching methods or his zany reasonings and aphorisms. She views him as someone she can turn to. And so Mr. Freeman is an example of a great teacher who, throughout the book, is painted as frustrated with the system. They tell him that he has to be doing a better grading method than giving everyone an A, so he paints people's names on the walls and paints their grades next to their name on the actual wall of the school. And often Melinda will comment on the fact that there's not enough resources, that she's shocked that Mr. Freeman will share all of his linoleum blocks with her, even though she's thrown so many away on a wasted matter of her art. In Iggy Peck, the architect, I thought it was really cute that actually the teacher was painted as someone that was different. She had a history where she had a fear of buildings, and that's all Iggy loved to do. And throughout the story, he becomes bored with education because buildings and talking about buildings and making them were all off limits. And so he grew bored with education until one day there was a picnic and the bridge collapsed. And Iggy made a bridge in order to save the class. And the teacher then learned that it's okay to have dreams, it's okay to be different and inspire curiosity and creativity. In the Magic School Bus, Miss Frizz was another zany teacher. All of her students are enthralled. They think she's such a great teacher. They often go through many crazy adventures. Something that stood out to me was, although she's such a good teacher, she didn't really have a way to get these kids what they needed. She took them to an archaeological field, and even the archaeologists didn't have the interesting things that she was trying to show them, so she had to enlist the help of a magical school bus to be able to get these kids into a situation where they would find it interesting, where it could be hands-on learning, where it could be an experience as opposed to being lectured at. I thought that was really just a huge statement on its own. That a magic school bus is the only way that a teacher can get what she needs to keep students entertained, to adhere to a specific curriculum they're trying to teach, and to also stay their zany selves without having to submit to the regulations that are in place for teachers today. In one of my articles, there was a teacher walkout due to poor conditions. They had rodents, they had mold, leaky ceilings, all kinds of issues. And the school board wouldn't change anything. It actually took a photo of fungus and mushrooms growing up from the floor for anyone to take notice of the serious faults in the actual structure of the building and the environment for the students. The article pointed out something that I hadn't considered, which was schools that are in low-income areas or that are underfunded are generally going to have students that have more needs, whether it's minorities that are underrepresented, whether it's students with more disabilities that don't have access to be able to get the help they need in their home life. And there's all these things that come together that really seems absurd when it comes to considering these schools that are underfunded are the ones that need the more funds to help access the students that need it the most. In the article, Stop Humiliating Teachers, It highlighted the attacks on teachers' performance, and that often when people will describe teachers as lazy, mediocre, tax-sucking, or that they're lagging on standardized tests, and they're demanding accountability without actually giving teachers the avenues in which to succeed. Often the failing rates of students are brought up, whether it's standardized tests or the fact that certain groups of people often underperform. There was a statistic about young black boys graduating high school at a rate of 59%, which is one of the lowest out of all of the groups. And this statistic is often brought up in ways that the teachers are failing, when really it comes down to a problem of poverty. These children will come into school in kindergarten, often far behind in vocabulary, in cognitive skills and knowledge, and they're expected to meet standards of children who have gone to pre-K, who have already learned their alphabet, who have already learned all of these things, and are starting ahead. It also talked about that the only way to help improve these dire circumstances is to increase resources going to all schools, and to also increase the pay of teachers. An article that touched on the pay of teachers is about a teacher, Deborah Brown, who has 3 jobs and still has to donate plasma in order to make ends meet. In the Times article, it goes on to say that teachers are, on average, with adjustment to inflation, earning less than they did in 1990. The only way that these teachers are getting someone to listen to them is by organizing walkouts and stopping the system altogether, in which Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education, criticized these teachers by saying they couldn't keep their adult problems out of the classroom. In general, teachers are shown to be sacrificing these things of themselves and paying for their own materials and not making ends meet, not being able to meet the curriculum set in place by suits who have never stepped foot in a classroom outside of when they were in school, and also without the proper resources, without the proper avenues in which to succeed with the students they're given.